Mutt stared at the cat, his gaze fixed on its unblinking eyes. Without warning, the feline stood up, stretched languidly, and disappeared into the shadows. As Mutt stepped into the family-owned funeral home, the familiar scent of polished wood and floral arrangements greeted him. His mother, Susan, was already engaged in conversation with a client in the lobby, a woman whose voice rose with agitation as she recounted how her brother had been killed by wolves. Mutt moved through the wide corridor, his footsteps muffled by the thick carpet. As he passed, Susan caught his eye and smiled warmly, though the woman beside her continued her fervent monologue. Susan, however, found it difficult to believe that wolves were lurking in their area. With a polite nod, she excused herself and followed Mutt into the staff room. As he readied himself for his shift, she spoke gently. "Hey, Mutt. How are you feeling? I know your neighbor passed away. How does that make you feel?" Mutt nodded slightly in acknowledgement, but offered no words. Instead, he busied himself with the notes from the previous shift. Susan glanced around to ensure no one else could hear before lowering her voice. "My son." She hesitated, then whispered, "Guess what? His body will be here around 3 p.m. As soon as the medical examiner is done, they'll send him over." She studied Mutt's expression, searching for a reaction. Then, in an even quieter tone, she added, "Do you want to be the one to turn whatever's left of him into ashes?" Mutt grabbed the red schedule book from the central table and met his mother's gaze. "Yes, I'll handle it," he said, flipping through the pages. "It should be fine. We don't have any other appointments at that time." Susan smirked slightly. "Okay, Serena's here today. She'll assist you." Suddenly, voices rose from the lobby. Susan sighed and went to investigate. Mutt took a deep breath, watching her disappear through the door. He couldn't shake the thought. Why hadn't his mother warned him about the wolves? The police had advised him to be vigilant, yet she seemed utterly unbothered. The staff room door swung open. Serena entered, grabbed a water bottle from the fridge, and turned to Mutt with an annoyed expression. "You know, a simple hi wouldn't kill you." He shrugged. "Would it kill you to leave me alone?" Rolling her eyes, she scoffed as Mutt retrieved his scrubs and headed to the fitting room to change. As he did, he could hear Serena complaining to Susan outside. His mother merely chuckled. "I'll knock some sense into him when I have time." Emerging from the room, Mutt was met by Marvin, who approached with an air of relief. "Mutt, we had a busy day. Glad you're here. Could you help me prepare a body for viewing?" Wordlessly, Mutt followed Marvin into another room, where he set to work ensuring the deceased looked presentable for their final farewell. By 4 p.m., a hearse arrived at the back entrance, carrying the remains of Mutt's neighbor. Mutt prepared the cremation room, ensuring the correct paperwork was in order before receiving the body from the driver. With Marvin's assistance, he verified the ID tags and processed the necessary documentation. When he finally unzipped the body bag, a wave of unease settled over him. His neighbor's remains were in horrific condition. Limbs torn apart, deep bite wounds cutting through muscle and shattering bone. The wolves had left nothing intact. Marvin, oblivious to Mutt's inner turmoil, filled the silence with idle chatter about Serena. "She acts like she runs this place. Only been here a year, but your mom encourages her." Mutt barely listened. His mind was elsewhere. As he handled the cold, lifeless remains, a chilling irony gnawed at him. Just Just hours ago, he had killed this man. Now, he was cremating him. Shouldn't he feel something? His fingers twitched. The black cat. He needed to find it. Maybe it held answers. And his mother. She knew something. But how could he even begin to ask her? Later, Marvin left to deliver urns, leaving Mutt alone with Serena. The thought of her opening her mouth irritated him, to the point that he nearly envisioned turning her into ashes too. The realization made him pause. He shook his head and silently vowed this would be his first and last. Serena busied herself with phone calls while Mutt cleaned the room. He would have preferred delivering the urns himself, but his mother had assigned the task to Marvin since the final stop was closer to his home. When Mutt finished cleaning, he entered the staff room to complete his charting. Serena followed, complaining about how Marvin hadn't properly cleaned the tools last time, forcing her to redo them herself. Mutt knew exactly why she was talking. She just wanted to keep him past his shift. She had a habit of trapping people in unnecessary conversations. "Report it to my mom," he said flatly before leaving the room. He changed and headed for the exit. From the main office, Serena called out loudly, "Are you leaving? What time are you coming tomorrow?" Without turning back, Mutt replied, "I updated the staff calendar. You can check it there." Serena's eyes widened in irritation, but she had no comeback. He was already gone. Mutt could care less about her. He had too much on his mind. Marvin always went on about how beautiful Serena was, but Mutt never felt the slightest attraction. Stepping outside toward his car, he felt an eerie sensation. Someone was watching him. He glanced around but saw no one. Later that evening, he stopped by a nearby cafe, bringing his laptop inside. He met with a few friends, ate, drank, and chatted for hours before finally heading home. As he arrived at his apartment, something felt off. The air was heavier, the darkness deeper. He showered, brushed his teeth, and got ready for bed. Tonight, for the first time, he left his window open. His annoying neighbor was no longer around to smoke outside. Just as he settled into bed, something heavy landed on the fence separating his unit from his late neighbor's. He turned toward the window. A pair of gleaming eyes stared back at him. Mutt stepped closer, his breath shallow. The closer he got, the clearer the figure became. A massive, white-bearded creature, watching him in silence. Then, in a deep, guttural voice, it spoke. "What? Your vision's still weak? Like all humans?" Mutt's body stiffened. The creature continued, amused. "I thought by now you'd at least regained your demonic sight, or something. That is, if you're truly the king they're all obsessed with." It laughed, a low, rumbling sound. "Did you get it? Obsessed demons? Ha! As if demons could be obsessed. It's only humans. Well, in any case, are you listening to me?" Mutt slammed the window shut and stumbled into the kitchen. He sank to the floor, knees drawn to his chest, burying his face in his arms. He thought about calling his mother. He needed someone, anyone, to ground him. Then the phone rang, shattering the silence. He jolted, heart pounding before hesitantly answering. "Mutt, why did it take you forever to pick up? Do you hear me? Mom, he faltered. "Mutt, what's going on? Is something wrong?" A pause, then laughter. "Oh, I see. You've got a girl over, huh? Haha. I'll leave you be. Just wanted to say, be nice to Serena. She works hard, and I want to keep her around. Anyway, have fun. Call me in the morning." Click. line went dead. Mutt stayed on the floor, silent. Then for the first time in a long time, he broke. He cried, until his eyes burned red. He felt trapped in a nightmare he couldn't wake from. Stay tuned for part 5 of My Demon and I Am next Sunday. Loved ones.